Hey everyone, welcome back to Reissued. If you're new here, my name is Andrew. I thought it would be fun to kick off 2025 with a little updated house tour. As many of you know, I am in the process of renovating my old house, and we're coming up on 4 years since I purchased the house, which is crazy. And so I've done a couple of home tours along the way, sharing my progress with you. And so it's always fun to do one of these and see how my house has changed over time. I also want to take the opportunity in this video to kind of reintroduce myself and my channel. We've had a lot of new watchers and new subscribers on the channel in the last couple months, the last couple of videos. And so I thought it might be fun to share with you a little bit more about me, about my channel, about the other people that are involved in the creation of my channel, and also share with you some of the projects that you might be seeing on my channel in 2025. I also want to share some news and some changes that are coming to my channel this year, so lots to talk about today. On that note, I am going to drop some timestamps down below in case you want to skip around to whatever part of the video that you're interested in. I'm feeling kind of chatty today and my brain is a bit all over the place and things that I want to talk about, so those timestamps are going to be down below just in case you need them. And also remember, if you like this video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more of my home renovation as it progresses throughout 2025, be sure that you're subscribed. I can't wait to get started. Let's jump on in. Okay, so first things first, allow me to reintroduce myself. Hi, my name is Andrew and I'm a hoarder. I'm only halfway kidding. I am a bit of a thriftaholic. I go to the thrift store all the time. I work at a thrift store. And so the focus really here on Reissued is to take unloved items, unlikely items, really cool finds from the thrift store and to reissue them. Thrift flipping them, using them as construction materials for my home makeover, putting them together in unexpected, eclectic ways. That's what we do here at Reissued. Now, when I first started my channel, I was fresh from New York City where I had been working as a dancer and a choreographer. COVID kind of made that difficult, so I moved here to Georgia and started my channel in 2020. At that time, I was doing a lot of sewing, a lot of clothing, repurposing, and gradually, and especially after the purchase of my home in 2021, I've moved more into home renovation content, more on house DIY projects, and more into thrifting content. I do some Thrift With Me videos, and I also have a series called DIY Diagnosis, where I go to the thrift store and report back on some of the most interesting things that I found, maybe unlikely things that I found that I think would look really great in a space and what I would do to make that happen. So today, let's kick off our house tour here in the front hall. I'm gonna skip the exterior here, partly because nothing really has happened on that space in the last year, so you can go and watch last year's house tour video if you wanna check out more about that. Also because it's freezing outside today and I'd really rather stay inside. So here in the front hall, nothing has been done to this space since I moved in. It hasn't really been top of the priorities list. It works as a very nice storage area for a lot of the other things that I've acquired that need a place to stay. Ultimately, this space is not gonna get anything crazy. I want it to be sort of a big open room, lots of art and mirrors and sconces on the walls, some big statement light fixtures on the ceiling, a nice big rug on the floor. I just wanna keep this as a pretty open hallway. When I was looking to purchase an older home, this is one of the things that I really wanted was the big open hallway. I prefer that to walking directly into a living space or a kitchen. I like to have that kind of landing area to have this grand entrance. Just a quick note about the history of my house. I continue to say it's an old house. I don't really know how old it is. When I purchased the house, it was listed as 1930. I have reason to believe based on what we found structurally when we pulled certain rooms apart and also other homes in my area that this house is quite a bit older than that. Public records on properties in my area are difficult because there was a fire that burned down, I think, the courthouse that was storing all of the documents in 1910. And so even though there are many homes in this area that are pre-Civil War, they're always listed as 1910 because there isn't actual documentation to take them further back than that. So I have reached out to my local historical society because I really want to learn more about my house this year. That's one of my goals for 2025, and they haven't called me back yet. So we'll save that for another video. Hey everyone, Editing Andrew popping in here for a moment. After I filmed this video, my mom found these fire maps online. This one is from 1927, and you can see that my house clearly is already there. So we were before 1930. The fire map from 1911 cuts off just before my house, but all the other houses on the street are already there. And so that makes me think that the house was already here as well, but I can't be sure. So the 1927 map is super cool and informative. We'll talk about that more in another video, I think. But for now, I'm just gonna use this as a template to build a floor plan to kind of show you the layout of my house. So yeah, basically everything in this space is going to be out of here at the end of the renovation. But as you can see, we have a long way to go. Some items that are staying. This piece that I found on Facebook Marketplace is one of my favorite pieces in my house. It was $100. I drove quite a ways to get to it because I thought it was so unique and special. I was going to put this in the living room, but my mom had the idea to move this here into the entry, and it's such a functional space here. The proportions look really nice. I like this mirror hanging over the top of it, so this is probably something that's going to stay here. Additionally, having a coat rack here is functional and practical and the right style that I'm looking for, so we'll keep that too. And then finally, I have this piano that I brought with me from my old apartment. It is not functional, but I got it for free on Facebook Marketplace with the intention to put this electronic keyboard inside of it. I grew up playing the piano on this electric keyboard. Later in high school, my parents got a real baby grand piano for me to play on, but this does work pretty well. It has weighted keys and it doesn't require the maintenance and tuning of a real piano. So I'm not really sure if it's worthwhile to put the electronic keyboard inside the old piano to give that look, or if I should just get a real piano. They're so cheap, people are giving them away all the time, so maybe I want to do that instead. Let me know in the comments what you think. Keep it real or fake it till you make it. But yeah, as I mentioned, this hallway space has just become a holding space for some built-in elements that are going to go in the living room, for lots of tools and things that we need on all of our projects. So eventually we're going to get this space cleared out. One project that I do expect to happen in 2025 that I've been talking about forever, I think I mentioned it in 2 of these home tour videos, is that we want to take out this back wall entirely and put some vintage windows in instead, partly to bring some height and some presence and some focal point to this space when you first walk through the front door, but also to get some of that light from the back atrium pouring into this space, because this space does tend to get a little bit dark. We feel comfortable with doing the demo ourselves, but we want to bring in a contractor to look at some of the structural elements. That wall is an exterior wall for the house, so in addition to wanting to move some of the studs slightly to open up that doorway a little bit, we are going to be removing this diagonal paneling that's on the outside that used to be used on older homes in place of what we would use now as like OSB. It just adds extra strength and squareness and structural support. So we're nervous to take that off, and so we're gonna get a professional opinion on that. But yeah, that project has been in the works for years. I have the windows for it already, and I'm so excited to have that finally happen, to be able to move forward more in the atrium space. So let me take you back there. All right. Welcome to the atrium. So my house is old, we don't know how old, but there were definitely lots of changes that were made to it over time. One of the changes is that the back porch was converted into an addition to add extra square footage to the house. This used to be a large L-shaped room. We sectioned off part of it to make a new bathroom. We'll get there in a second, but the rest of this room has beautiful natural light, tons of windows, and so I would like to see this turn into sort of a conservatory space that also has to act as the dining room. So far in the space, we have done some reconstruction of some of the walls in here and the floor. There was water damage and termite damage here. We also added a giant picture window. I've never shared any of that on my channel before, so I have unseen footage from like 3 years ago that we've never addressed. You can see behind me that we've started pulling the siding off the walls to put those windows in back here. We've painted the space out to be nice and neutral. We did some work cutting down some thrifted furniture at the end of last year so that I could have a little Thanksgiving party. Ultimately, the space has been a little bit difficult for me, partly because the renovation has been stretched over such a long period of time, and so the room never feels quite right, and then we get new ideas about what it should be and then kind of change directions, which is hard on a renovation that takes this long. So as it stands now, I love all of the elements that are in the space, but I'm just having this feeling that it's not really working to tell the story that I want to tell for this space. This is meant to be this sort of outdoor back porch conservatory, like greenhouse kind of feel, and some of the elements are just not working toward that. So I think that this year, after we get that wall of windows in and we can really get a sense of what this space is going to feel like, I probably will start to be a little bit brutal in picking which pieces should stay or go within this space. I really like the new dining setup, but we need to paint or stain some of the pieces. We need to add new upholstery. There's just a lot of question marks sitting around this space for me. As you can see right now, this space is overloaded with plants. Any of the plants that usually live outside during the spring and summer and autumn are in for the winter because it is so cold outside. So I need to make sure that the space has places to house those plants when they need to come in. Additionally, I want to do some really cool hanging plants hanging on the wall. This should just feel like a really lush and magical space. I am not a plant person, but my boyfriend Matt is all about plants. He loves them. He is going to be moving in with me at some point this year. So that has been something that's been on my mind. You know, I want to take the time that I need for the renovation, but also I want to move things forward so that we can spend more time together, because ultimately that's what we both want. So that has been a major change to my life in the last year. Not everyone is adept at living in chaos and with the hope of the future in the way that I am. But ultimately, once Matt moves in, he's going to help me turn the space into a beautiful plant oasis. Now let's pop into the little guest bathroom that we built entirely from scratch. All right, welcome to the echoey guest bathroom. Again, this used to be a part of the back porch. We sectioned it off to add a full bathroom here since the original house only had one full bath. I've covered this space really in depth on my channel before in the guest bathroom reveal video. Note that I am going to link a lot of these videos down below in case you want more information about any of these spaces that we addressed a while ago. But yeah, this space is continuing to work out for me really well. I don't see this room as a top priority that we'll be making any changes to in 2025. However, last year I started going back into spaces like the kitchen that were already done, but I thought just needed a little refresh with some touch-ups, some changes, some function things, some style things. And so I am sort of looking at this room through that lens now. I mentioned on my house tour video last year, I love the hand-painted wallpaper in here. Yes, I did paint this by hand. I'm feeling now, as the rest of my house comes together, that this room would benefit from a little bit more warmth and a little bit more color. And so I'm not going to paint over it entirely, but I do think it would be nice to kind of glaze over it to give it a little bit more depth and texture, because right now it just feels very white in this room. Additionally, I would like to go in and style with some more colorful towels, some more colorful like glassware and soap dishes and that sort of thing. I also am finding the sconces that I chose for this space. I got them for pretty cheap on liquidation, so no big loss there, but I'm finding them to be a little bit generic. As I delve deeper into the world of thrifting and the more cool things I see, the more allergic I become to generic. So I think there's room for something a little bit more cool and vintagey lighting wise in this space. One final note in here, on the primary bath reveal video, I opted to do a shower curtain around the tub in sort of a vintage style. I remember saying in this room reveal that I didn't want a shower curtain. I didn't think they were stylish, or I don't know what my deal was, but I opted for a glass door in the space, which I think looks great. And I still stand by it as a good choice for this space because I think it really opens up this very small room. However, this door is so freaking hard to keep clean. So I am very excited to have a shower curtain in the other space where if it needs a little touch up, I can just throw it in the wash rather than spending hours scrubbing. Behind every beautiful, pristine glass shower that you're seeing on YouTube, in a magazine, on a TV show, there's hours of scrubbing that go into that. So yeah, practicality is moving to the front of my mind over time for sure. Moving back through the atrium and into the kitchen. Welcome back to the kitchen. If you're new here to my channel, this kitchen holds a special place in my heart, partly because my kitchen video was kind of the first video to blow up on my channel. We did a kitchen refresh video this past year that was also a top performer for my channel, but was honestly probably my favorite video of the year in terms of the projects that were involved and really making simple, small changes to make a giant impact in a space. I love that video. I mentioned in the kitchen refresh video that we were not just going for style changes, but also for functional changes to really make this space work, and this space is continuing to work for me. It's working really well, actually. The only thing that's not working for me here is the plants. I knew this going in. I've gotten to a point where I have so many plants spread out over different areas of my house. I like to incorporate them into a makeover reveal because they add so much to a space, but it's been hard for me to kind of maintain everything and give it what it needs over time, especially with my herbs that are sadly looking very dead. But yeah, I love the way that my kitchen is working out, and I definitely recommend that you go watch that kitchen refresh video if you haven't already. Right off the kitchen is a little half bathroom. This was here originally, but we made significant changes to it, swapping the position of the toilet and the sink. We did the faux croc wallpaper in here. I did the faux stained glass window, which is another one of my favorite videos, and that project is still holding up beautifully, almost 3 years later, I think. We also closed up the old doorway through to the living room and replaced it with a really large mirror. It really opens up this space. It does make me a little bit sad because I almost never use this space for any reason. I always pop into one of the other bathrooms instead of coming in here, so that's kind of a bummer. But I have two thoughts about this space. First of all, the back of this door has never been stained. It's just sitting in its kind of rough, stripped condition. I did stain the other side of the door for the kitchen reveal, and I'm not loving it. Let me tell you why. Little pointer here. So I thought at the time that I would use this water-based like stain finish combo, and it was incredibly hard to use because it didn't want to go on very evenly and it started to dry very quickly. And I was pretty new to this. I didn't really know at the time, but I just have found since then that using an oil-based stain and then putting a wax finish or a clear coat on top of it after is just so much easier and looks so much better. My other thought about this space is I do feel like I've had sort of a style evolution on my channel since the original kitchen look and since this bathroom. At that time, everything was kind of very black and white and kind of monochromatic and a little bit more modern and streamlined. And I guess, I don't know if it's living in the house for longer or styles changing and my influence is changing, but I do feel like I've gotten a little bit more antique-y, a little bit more Victorian, a little bit more eclectic, a little bit weirder. And so I would like to see this space get refreshed again with something that gives it a little bit more personality. I originally wanted this room to go dark entirely. I still think it would look great that way. I think we can do a lot more with hanging art in this space and just giving it more of a vibe. Ever since my bedroom makeover reveal this past year, I've been really hooked on this idea of creating a narrative for a space. And right now, this space for me almost has a narrative, but is really not quite there. So I just want to push it a little bit further, maybe next year. Moving into the pantry, this is the most recent video that I completed at the end of last year with the little speakeasy pantry refresh. Again, that video was kind of all about making small DIY changes to make a big impact in a space, and that's something that I'd like to be doing a lot more of in 2025. I know that a lot of my makeovers tend to involve huge, giant construction processes that take a lot of time and a lot of expertise. I bring in my parents a lot to work on those projects. If you haven't met my parents before, here's my mom Bliss and my dad Paul. I owe so much to them not only in my home makeover, but also just in my DIY spirit. My parents have always been DIY people. I remember my mom sewing like all of our Halloween costumes, and my dad was constantly fixing up the house, and we would change the paint colors on our walls every couple of years. And although I don't think either of my parents think of themselves as creative people, there was just always such a spirit of possibility and making something, which is exciting. And so I'm always so excited to have them helping me on my projects. I get some comments from time to time about like, Andrew, your videos are less relatable because you're not really doing everything yourself. And while I totally get that and I understand that perspective, I think having my parents help out on some of these projects has allowed me to push to do things that I couldn't do by myself, but that exist in my imagination. I think, over the last year on my channel, I've really thought about what is it that I'm trying to do here? What is it that I'm good at? And ultimately, am I the best at any sort of DIY project, construction, sewing? No. What I am good at is seeing potential in things that other people don't see potential in, and also putting things together in a way that other people might not. And so I'm so lucky to have my parents with me on this journey to bring their practical knowledge and their planning and their ideas to this space as well, so that I can really do what I do best. I think it allows the ideas to come to life and inspire and make something that we haven't seen before, if that makes sense. Now, if you watched the pantry video, you saw that pass-through did not used to be there. We cut a wall between these two rooms to open up from the kitchen into the living room because I felt it made way more sense to have the pass-through happen between those two rooms rather than having it happen through the little half bath like it was before. So we have this effective butler's pantry now. I finished up the space. Matt came to visit me for the weekend and he looked at the cabinets over the bar and said, wow, wouldn't it be so amazing if these were glass cabinets with lighting inside so you could display your liquor bottles and it would feel like a whole bar. And it was not what I wanted to hear at the time because there's so much work that went into the space already, and that's always a hard time when you finish something and then someone else comes in and is like, what if you did this instead? I get that in the comments sometimes, but I'm getting better at taking feedback. I think it's something that I was working on in 2024, and I think that Matt is right. I think that would look incredible in the space. So maybe sometime soon we will revisit the space again, maybe cut out the center of the doors, add in some glass and some lighting. That would mean we need to paint the inside of the cabinets or maybe wallpaper them. I don't know, projects are never ending. It's always funny to me when people in the comments are like, what are you gonna do when your home makeover is done? And I'm like, is that ever gonna happen? There's always more to do. Now we're coming into the living room. And this room I think is gonna be the big project for 2025. There's a lot to do in here. We've been wanting to tackle this space for a while, but the list of things that needs to happen kind of gets bigger and bigger. As we get more aspirational and ambitious, I'll probably do a planning video talking you through some of the design elements that I'm thinking about and ask for some of your feedback, but just to give you some ideas here of what you might be seeing. The flooring here noticeably dips in the center, and while I think we could do that ourselves, I've sort of gotten to the point where if there's not a project that's interesting for the camera, I'd rather just have someone else do that and focus on things that are gonna make content here so I can keep getting that out to you faster. After we get the floors level, we have made the decision to take out the ceiling in this room and raise it back to the original height. All of the rooms on this side of the house, kitchen, living room, and studio, had a dropped ceiling at various heights. We took out the kitchen first because that ceiling was literally caving in, and we went back up to the original 12-foot ceiling in there. Wasn't planning to do it in any other spaces, but then when we got to do the studio makeover, we thought that using the height in there would be better to store some of the items that we needed to get up off the floor. So we took out the ceiling there as well and replaced it with the drywall ceiling. Here in the living room, I don't mind the low ceiling because I want this room to feel a little bit cozier, but as more things move into this space and as every other room in the house now has a 12-foot ceiling, it just makes sense to take this all the way up to make this room feel a little bit more grand and a little bit more opulent and a little bit more period. I want to still keep that sort of enclosed feeling, so we're thinking about making the ceiling like a dark wood. We've pulled a lot of wood that we've saved out of various parts of the house, so we're talking about doing some sort of like low profile coffered ceiling. I just wanted something in here that had that kind of like moody, loungy feel, and I've always kind of visualized this space with a wood ceiling. Additionally, we're going to be doing a full wall of built-ins on this side, done with thrifted cabinetry and thrifted IKEA pieces. I'm looking into wallpaper options for this space. I think we'll end up probably stripping down the fireplace to natural wood. We've done 2 out of 4 fireplaces, so let's make it 3. And then rather than tiling the fireplace, because we do have a very smooth concrete surface, we've been talking about doing some sort of paint treatment, maybe with like an epoxy finish or like a, you know, that like nail, like UV resin type stuff they put on, something to give it the appearance of tile, but with a paint application. I think that might be kind of cool and unique, and I haven't seen that done before. So lots of things are going to be happening here. It's a little bit more cleared out than it was, I believe, in last year's home tour video, but there's still a lot of stuff in here. My mode of operating for creating a space is anytime I see something in the thrift store that I think fits kind of what I'm going for, I buy it. And even though it's kind of overwhelming to take on so much stuff when you don't know where to put it, which is why I'm a hoarder and why my house looks like this, I find it's easier to do it on that end rather than getting a project completed and then look for what you need specifically. For example, I've known since I moved into the house that I wanted to do giant built-ins in this room. When I reveal those built-ins, I want them to look styled and beautiful. And I'd rather not go out at that point and source a bunch of pieces to fill that space because 1, it will be a lot more expensive, and 2, it will not be nearly as unique and as interesting as the things that I've been collecting over time. So right now this room just continues to get more and more full of frames and artwork and sculptures and accessories and books and just things that I've collected that I thought, wow, that feels like my living room vibe. So yes, it's a little bit overwhelming. Not everybody can work this way, but I just find that it makes the finished product look better and feel more lived in and makes it feel personal to me. It's things that I love that I've collected over 3, 4, 5, 10 years, as opposed to things that I just went out and bought in a couple days, you know? Okay, so we're back in the studio. You probably recognize this space. I shoot all of my intros and my talking content in this space because it feels like the vibe of my channel with all of this beautiful workshop kind of stuff around. Now, this space had a lot of work done to it at the tail end of 2023. That's when we removed the ceiling, we built a custom desk and then a custom countertop, and we stripped the fireplace, and we moved furniture in. So this space is like 80% of the way done. We have not painted the floor in this space, which drives me crazy, but it's also really annoying because everything in the room, all the furniture on the floor has to move out of here, and that's quite a lot to move somewhere else. We also never finished the fireplace tile in the space. It's hard with some of these fireplaces. They're kind of crumbly and things are sitting at different levels. So it's taken some strategy and some talking through with my parents to figure out how we want to resolve that. But I think we have a plan. We just need to do it. This space is a tricky one for me. Again, I do a lot of projects in the space. I have a bunch of sewing stuff out now. I'm working on this leather chair that I've been working on forever. I found this on the street. I'm recovering it with thrifted leather jackets. So the issue that I found with this space is that when it's totally picked up and totally clean and there are no ongoing projects, I love the way that it feels. It feels warm and eclectic, and there's lots of things around to look at, and it just feels inspiring. I struggle in this space as soon as I get 1 or 2 or 3 projects going in here at a time, which is often the case for a room makeover when I might be sewing and painting and staining all at the same time. Once multiple projects get going in here, it just feels so cluttered and there's just no space to work, and I find that I actively don't want to come in this space. We built my external monitor into these shelves so that I could come in here to edit, and I never come in here to edit because I just feel overwhelmed by all this stuff. So in addition to finishing up the final projects for this space to do the reveal, I'm also going to be doing some decluttering or hiding things away, just because I feel like we've passed the threshold of like comfortable maximalist vibes into something that is just like overly cluttered, and it makes my brain hurt. I'm also the kind of person that struggles to keep a space neat when I don't know where to put stuff. So a lot of my items in here have a dedicated space that they go and I can put them away. However, with my laser engraver that I got at the end of last year, I don't have a dedicated spot for that. I still have some collage materials out from the last art that I made last year that I haven't put away. I don't have a dedicated spot for them. So as a part of that reveal, I just need to deeply organize this space as well. Speaking of art, there was a period on my channel when I was regularly making artwork. My top video to date is a thrifted art video. That one sort of blew up in a way that I never expected. And so I started making art content more regularly on my channel, and that was well received for a while. And I know there's some people out there that really like that content and then have asked for that again. That's not something that I see myself doing much in 2025, partly because I haven't seen those videos perform well enough that it feels worth it for me to do them, but also because I kind of feel like starting to make videos about my art making process kind of sucked the joy and the life and the inspiration out of that process. And so it just doesn't feel like something that I want to make videos about this year. I want to get back into more art making on my end, just on my own terms, because it's something that I enjoy and it feels expressive. When I was working as a dancer and a choreographer, I felt like I had an outlet to put my feelings in. I know that sounds so like hippy dippy, but if I was feeling a certain way, I could channel that into some sort of creative output. And I felt like visual art did that for me as well. And as I haven't had that, I don't know what to do with that energy. YouTube and home renovation certainly exercises my creativity in some ways, but it doesn't allow me to really express my feelings. So I'm really wanting to get back into some of those things off camera in the new year to have a place to put those feelings, if that makes sense. That has also been front of mind for me since toward the end of 2024, I sort of made the decision to move away from my dance career entirely. You may remember around this time last year, I was getting ready to go to Chicago to dance at Lyric Opera. At that time, I was still trying to keep my dance career and my choreography career active. And I think over the last couple of months, I've just sort of made the decision to let that go for now, to really focus my attention here on YouTube. I guess I found over the last couple of years that I've been trying to do so many things at once that I'm not really pushing hard enough on one thing to make it successful. And spending the latter half of last year just working at the REISSUED and just focusing on my YouTube content made my brain feel like it was all in one place for the first time in a while. And I'm going to go with that. I will say that letting go of my dance life has been incredibly emotional for me in ways that I didn't expect it to be. So that, is something that I struggled with a lot last year that I didn't even know I was struggling with, and that it all kind of came to a head at the end of the year. But, I think right now this is the right thing, and I'm okay with that. Anyway, there's too much crap in this room for my emotional baggage, so we got to clear out. All right, moving across the hall back through the entry into the guest room / office. This poor space has been having an identity crisis since I moved in. It was the dedicated storage room for most of the time. And then around this time last year, I worked harder to sort of move it into a guest room because I was having a friend come to stay with me. And then Matt started talking about moving in with me. And so he needs a space to work from home. And so ultimately this space is going to become his space. It will have a desk and whatever he needs for work. He also wants a bed in the space so that he has somewhere to go to be his own space. And if he wants to lie down while he's working, he likes to kind of move to different areas. I think all of that is going to be great. I'm struggling to plan this space a bit because there's a lot of furniture in this room that I feel is not going to end up in this room. So it's hard to visualize it sort of from the ground up. And then also I'm struggling a bit with the bed with a desk in the office. Again, if we're talking about a narrative for the space in order to create a style, it just feels like a confused narrative to me. So we will figure out something to make the space work for him. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be pretty low priority this year, partly because we have other spaces that we want to push forward with more, but also because this space has all of this built-in storage that the previous owner put in here. I don't like it. I plan to rip it out entirely, but right now it's storing all of my Christmas, all of my Halloween, all of these clothes that I don't know what to do with. I actually did a lot of clearing out this time last year, but there's still stuff there that I don't want to clear out that needs a place to go. So once the built-ins go into the living room, some of it will be able to move into that cabinetry. Other things can move into the new shed that we're going to build. Again, I'm not going to take you outside because it's freezing, but we are talking about building a different shed in the back. The shed that's there currently is a bit on the small side and it has an animal infestation problem and it's just not very attractive. So I think we're going to try to build a new shed on the other side of the property that can store a lot of the tools and a lot of the building materials and sort of get that out of the house. Again, that's what makes this space difficult because there's so much stuff in here that does need storage that doesn't have a place to go right now. So no real change in here. We did put in sort of a temporary office setup with some furniture that I had already. The only thing that I feel strongly is going to stay in the space is this antique barrister bookcase. I found this at the REISSUED a couple months ago. Matt had expressed interest in this kind of piece specifically. I think it's so beautiful for the kind of vibe that I'm wanting this space to be. So that feels like our North Star that we're gonna kind of veer in that direction with collecting other things for this space. But yeah, with the other items in here, I'm not really sure that the styles and the colors are gonna work. So we might have to find some new homes for them. Also, don't mind the clothes on the bed here. Matt and I are going to Japan in a couple weeks and I'm laying out my wardrobe so I can decide what to pack. I'm definitely packing my DIY Yeezy Gap Balenciaga collab jacket from my clothes making days. I also wanted some giant pleated chinos, so I found these at Goodwill for $2.50. They were a size 52 and I am tailoring them to fit myself so we have a lot of volume and we get that drama. Anyway, but yeah, I think this room will stay mostly untouched for 2025, but I would like to start collecting some pieces to get an idea for the space. All right, moving back through the entry in the main hallway, we conclude our tour in the completed primary suite, which was the main focus of 2024. I absolutely love this space, and I cannot express enough how nice it is to have a living space be done like this, a place to just relax in. I feel very calm, very zen in this space. However, still making changes. So after the bathroom reveal, I had to send some high quality photos over to Vintage Tub and Bath as a part of our collaboration agreement. And so Matt is really into photography, he's really good at it, and so he offered to shoot the space for me. And so as he was shooting, he was struggling to get a wide enough angle for some of the shots, so we had to move the mirror out of the corner where it was, and we sat it over on the opposite wall just to get out of the way. And I kind of really loved how it felt on that side of the room. The thing I didn't realize about having the mirror in the corner is that it was just reflecting kind of the ugliest parts of the room with like the side of the PAX units that I'm still struggling to know whether or not to paint black. Whereas on the other side of the room, it's reflecting the beautiful fronts of the PAX wardrobes and the bed and some of the most beautiful elements of the space. Unfortunately, nothing is ever easy and I can't hang it on the wall as is because the mirror is so deep and the cabinet door would not be able to open fully, which it needs to be able to pull out the drawers in the cabinet. So I think I'm going to reconfigure some of the PAX elements on the inside of the cabinet so that the door doesn't have to open all the way and so that I get some storage for some of my longer hanging items, but it just means there's more to do on this to-do list. But it also meant that I could pop something else in the other corner, and I found this incredible chair at the REISSUED for $20. Yes, it was $20. Yes, this is one of those iconic mid-century designs. I saw a chair like this on Design Within Reach for like $3,600. I've seen something about whether it's welded or not welded affects the authenticity. It does have a made in Italy sticker on the bottom, so can't be that bad, but I just thought this was such a steal for $20. I didn't know where I was gonna put it, but I'm like, we have to get it. And then I brought it home and I thought it looked so amazing over in this corner. And then up on top of that, I have this poster that my mom and I got at Century 21 in New York, like in the early 2000s, like 2008 maybe. I've always loved this piece. It is custom framed. I was gonna put it in the living room, but there's kind of a lot going in that space already, so I think it just rounds out this corner and looks so perfect here. And also makes more sense with what's going on the shared wall in the bathroom. This is something that I'm thinking about for 2025. As we start to connect different rooms in the house, the things that belong in a space feel different depending on what's in the adjoining room. right? So many of the rooms in my house have been kind of one-offs where they're not connected to anything, but as the living room gets done and it connects to the studio and the kitchen, as we see more spaces come together, we might need to make some adjustments to existing spaces to make those work together, if that makes sense. I can't believe I forgot to do a dog introduction in this video. This is my dog Queenie. I adopted her just over 2 years ago from the pound. You'll see her around in the background of a lot of my videos. You'll also see my parents' dog Sam hanging out in the background as well, and sometimes Matt's dog Olivia. And finally, the labor of 2024, the primary bathroom. I'm absolutely loving this space. I officially moved into this space after the reveal a couple of weeks ago, and everything is actually working really well for me in here. I was unsure about how I was gonna feel about showering in the clawfoot tub. This was the original tub in the space, but I'm not having any problems at all. I was worried that the shower curtain was gonna blow in on me and like cling to me, but I think that it was a good decision to go with two 84-inch shower curtains, so it's just enough to wrap around, but not so much that you have a bunch of extra fabric. I'm also really happy that rather than going with a shower curtain and a liner, I just opted to do a 2-in-1. This is waterproof. I haven't had any water coming through it, and that also means there's just not so much fabric in the way. So I actually feel very spacious in the shower, loving it so far. The storage has been great for me. The mood in this room is just so warm and so calming. I think the real MVP of this project was the Allison blinds. Not sponsored this time around. I absolutely love the light filtering element. I think it provides nice privacy, but it also just creates a beautiful warm light in this space. I feel like I'm in a spa. I think I might put those in a couple other spaces in my house, like my kitchen and maybe the atrium. All of the sunlight in those spaces is really great, but the harsh light in the afternoon can be very intense, and so it might be a good idea to soften that. But yeah, not much to say in here. Everything is working out great. If you haven't watched the reveal video, go check that out now. It's super fun, and the before and after is awesome. All right, everybody, that concludes our tour. We are back in the studio, and I just want to talk about a couple of little new items coming to my channel this year, some changes to my channel. First of all, you may have noticed that my upload schedule was really irregular in 2024. I was aiming to do one video a week, but that did not happen for most of the year. And I think it's become a little bit unreasonable for me to ask that of myself because of the level of work that's going into each video, both on the project end of what we're actually doing in this space, but also on the production end with editing. The level of stress that was coming my way in 2024 by doing back-to-back videos was just kind of a lot. So I think that I'm going to opt for a bi-weekly schedule, videos every other week. If I can get more videos out or want to put out a bonus video in between, I can. But I think setting the expectation for myself and for you all to see me every other week, I think will allow me to be a lot more consistent in my upload schedule and allow me to breathe and relax and enjoy my life a little bit. Other changes coming to my channel this year, I mentioned that I want to really lean into home makeover and home decor content, not only with massive aspirational renovations, but also with things that are a little bit more achievable. And so with that, I want to start to explore other people's spaces. So we're going to stick with the family here. I think there's some projects that I can work on in my parents' house and we can see their space a little bit. I've already started working with Matt a little bit on his space. He has a beautiful loft apartment in Atlanta, and it's just such a stunning space, but he's feeling overwhelmed by the amount of space and how to organize things and what kind of styles to work with and how to incorporate thrifted finds. And so we've started acquiring some thrifted finds together and seeing what might work for his space. I also have an older sister, Katie, and she lives in my grandmother's house in Florida currently. This was my grandma Shirley, who passed in 2021, the day after I bought my house. I have some of her really beautiful finds in my space, but I thought it would be fun to take you to her house and show you a little bit of her amazing finds and how they were put together in her space back in the 90s and how much of that design still stands. I think that her house taught me a lot about one, collecting unique things that you love and filling your home with those things, but also how in doing that, you can make your space so timeless. Basically, her house has not been touched since the 90s. So there's some things that need updating and then other areas where relatives have taken some of her really beautiful pieces out of the space and we need to put something back there that fits with the existing space. So I think that might be kind of a fun project as well. So that brings me to one of my personal goals for 2025, which is getting better at working on other people's spaces. It's difficult for me to give advice sometimes times, partly because I feel like a lot of the things that I do just come really naturally to me. And so I'm trying to dig to the root of what did I do for my space and how can I do that for someone else? But it's also hard for me because the thing that I am good at is seeing potential in things that other people don't see potential in. And so often in my makeover videos, if I'm working with my parents or I'm working with Matt, I'll hear, wow, I didn't really think that was going to work. I wasn't sure, but now that I see it, it looks great. And so it's hard when you're working with someone on the front end and you say, I have this idea for this space. I have this piece that would look great in your space. And they're like, I hate that. It's hard to know how much to push back and to fight for your idea within that setting, especially with someone that you know personally. So that's going to be an interesting journey this year. Stay tuned for that. And finally, my sister Katie has built a whole career in tech, and she knows a lot about all of that. And so she has offered to help me this year, kind of on the back end, helping me handle brand sponsorships, trying to improve my SEO scores. These are things that I think I could be doing or probably should be doing to boost my channel faster. It's just difficult for me to do that. Again, I'm an artist. I came from an art background. I'm here on YouTube to share that part of what I do. I don't really know that much about the rest or care that much. And so everything that I know about social media and marketing and keywords and getting the right title for the maximum engagement, these are things that I've just kind of like learned as I've gone and maybe not done the best job with. So I'm going to put a little bit more effort there this year and see if we can grow this a little bit more. I hear a lot in the comments, you should have a lot more subscribers, and I agree with you. I would like that as well. And I finally feel like I'm at a place with my content where I feel worthy of that. I'm proud of the projects that I'm doing. I'm proud of the makeovers and the production quality. So now's the time to really grow this thing. On that note, if anyone wants to collaborate with me, if you feel like you have something cool that you could bring to the Reissue team, my email is on my channel page. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for going on this little house tour with me. I am so excited about all the projects that we have coming in 2025. If you like this video, like this video. If you want to see more content like this, be sure that you're subscribed. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon.